Hi, everybody. It is Tuesday Night Roundtable, and I want to welcome everybody who's watching right now. And of course, if you don't get to watch at 7 on Tuesday, you'll get a chance to watch it anytime. The video will be archived on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn, just like it always is for you. Just want to say thanks for checking out our video this evening. And tonight, we're going to be talking about conservative solidarity. The leaders, a couple of our leadership team, myself, Jen Olmsted, and Marie Cass are here tonight to talk about our stories, why we are part of justify.org, why we're starting this organization, this activism, and what it is we're trying to move forward to. So just want to encourage you, please go to justify.org. Check out our mission and what we have there, events, commentary, resource page. We are also on Facebook and LinkedIn. So you can follow us there and comment and join our activities and our groups. All right. So, ladies, without further ado, I'm going to just pose a little question for everybody to share. So tonight, what we really want to do is share our story. Two of our leaders are not here tonight, Audrey Herman and Lindy Larson. They have familial commitments that made it where they couldn't be here tonight. But all five of us have very similar stories in terms of how we got to this point, or at least there's an underlying theme there. And so we want to share that with you guys tonight and call you to action too, for us to come together and find a way to start to affect change. So the first thing we want to talk about, sort of the question or thing that we're going to share with you is, how did each one of us come to be a registered Republican or part of the Republican Party, or really where we are in our political stance right now? Some of us fully walked away from the Democratic Party, and some of us have been unaffiliated and even moved around to different parties, but we're all finding that we need to come together now. So Jen, talk to us a little bit about you and your story, and tell us first kind of how you came to be where you are.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, my whole life I've let's just say I've never voted without noting who or what I was voting for or against. So I considered myself, especially with my friends, kind of more politically active than most of them, because they would just be like, oh, this guy sounds cool, let's vote for them. It's like, yeah, do you know anything about him? Do you agree with them? But it was really in the last couple years, since I think it was 2018, there was a bill that was introduced in the Colorado legislature that really hit home hard. And it just kind of slapped me, honestly, to be honest. It's like, whoa, I need to get up off my butt and go. And I was at the Capitol. I signed up to testify. The first time I signed up, I didn't get to. I submitted the written one. And ever since then, I've just been kind of there and in it more. But kind of going through that process, I was unaffiliated from the get-go. And then about 8 years ago, started getting involved with the Libertarian Party, kind of in the middle, that third party. Like you said before, you know, we've got this two-party system, but we've got to come together. And I was just watching what the different parties were doing and how they were helping us or not helping us. And just this last 6 months or so, I really saw where, you know what, the Republican Party is the one helping me right now, helping a lot of us. And, you know, you mentioned the Democratic Party. I've never been registered one, but I've got family who is, and they're even doing that. What happened to my party? You know, especially the older ones, they're like, wait, they used to be hippies and let you be you, and what happened? So, I mean, I can't speak for them, but I know a lot of them are feeling that same thing as, you know, whoa, wait, maybe they don't have my back like I thought they did, and these guys seem to, so let's go see what they're all about. And that's just been where I've been, and just actually registered Republican just a few weeks ago, because I'm like, nope, I we've got to come together, like you said, and work through this.
Cool. Yeah, the Democratic Party today is not what the Democratic Party was 40 or 50 years ago.
No.
I just had a conversation with someone the other day and said, who was the last Democratic president or really high-ranking official who, respected the Constitution and loved this country? And we were like, JFK, how long has it been since we have seen that transition in the party? So it's not what it was. Marie, you want to share with us too?
Yeah, so I was raised in a religious system that taught conservative values and generally tended to vote Republican. But as I grew older into my teens and young 20s, I didn't internalize those values and found myself, at the college, older and knew that I should vote, but didn't know the issues. Like Jen was saying, I was probably that friend that just would vote because that guy sounded cool or there was Democrat on his name. I distinctly remember going to vote probably for the first time and really having no idea what I was doing, what I was voting for. I was completely uninformed on the issues. So I was definitely passive, liberal. I think back on that and I think, oh goodness, what kind of damage did my vote do? My uninformed voting that I did as a registered Democrat. So I stayed Democrat for quite a few years until I had a complete life change and just a complete radical shift in my worldview, and then really started to understand these issues and what was at stake. And for me, the first thing that really made me feel like I can no longer be a registered Democrat was just the pro-life issue. I mean, that was just a non-negotiable for me personally. And then from there, I just started to learn and to educate myself on, all of the different issues, and just over the years, kind of just taking in more and more information and points of view about those things. And I definitely don't consider myself or haven't considered myself to be like politically active. I'm just somebody who I find myself just very concerned with, the issues that are going on right now. And so at one point I did register with the American Constitution Party, thinking, yes, it's a Tea Party for Colorado. I want to align with my values. And I didn't quite feel like Republican aligned with my values at that point. And then I quickly discovered that I was being left out on being able to participate in primaries and, different really important things. And so then went to an unaffiliated designation, which, I'm currently still at, but, feeling that tug to needing to move towards that solidarity with the Republican Party.
Yeah, very cool. Well, and I think that there are a ton of people out there who are unaffiliated, but their values align with the same things that our representatives and candidates who are part of the Republican Party are representing. So for me, when I was a teenager, I was a conservative at heart, right? I always had an underlying conservative values about economics, about I'm pro-life, been pro-life my whole life. I mean, I can remember having conversations about my thoughts about abortion and my feelings about that and the preservation of life. And but then I went to college and I started having different friends, and also there were people also who were close to me who were changing their thought processes and stuff. And what happened with me is, well, I went to college, then I went into counseling and those types of things. And between industry and field and friends and different things, I felt like I sort of got pulled into the Democratic Party without much thought, kind of like what you were talking about, right? And I got pulled into that Democratic Party. One of the things that really played heavily for me was the issue of abortion. I was definitely pro-life, and that's always been my position. But I felt very indoctrinated. And at the time, I didn't feel indoctrinated, but now looking back at it, I realized that that's what was going on, right? Is that young women are told that to be a feminist, right? And the definition of feminist that they want to use is that you're a woman who supports women's rights and women equality and equal pay and, you know, women getting to choose to do whatever they want and blah, blah, blah. And that in order to be for women and to be a feminist, you have to be pro-abortion or pro-choice is what they call it, right? Well, pro-choice means pro-abortion. I hate, you know, I used to say pro-choice because, again, I was suckered into that indoctrination, but it is pro-abortion, right? That's we need to just say what it is. We need to stop using all this foo-foo language. And I was, you know, really indoctrinated at the time into that notion that to be a woman who supported women, you had to support that notion. And despite my own personal beliefs, I felt like there was a crusade for women, especially at that time, you know, in the late 80s, coming into, you know, the early 90s and stuff. I think there was a big push for that. And I felt like this is what I had to do was to be part of the Democratic Party, right? In order to be a good feminist or whatever that meant at the time. Even though my own personal views didn't really align with the Democratic Party, my views on civil liberties and taxation and life and things like that. And I always kind of felt like I was riding on the edge of that. But again, people close to me and things, my career, you know, sort of brought me to that place. And I do recall looking back and thinking, oh, you know, even though I would never do this, and this is not for me, that if we take away, you know, a right to choose, that women are going to lose all their rights. We're just going to end up, you know, barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, being beaten with a stick by our husbands, right? I mean, that's the image. And at that time, that message was really being pushed by the Democratic Party. And I truly believe it still is. I think that underlying notion that if a woman is pro-life and she does not believe in the choice of abortion, that somehow she is against other women. She's either an elitist or she doesn't respect women's rights or any of those types of things. So it was really when I started to come to the realization that, you know, I was being poured the Kool-Aid, that I was like, I don't even believe in this garbage. And as I started to teach college and go on in my career and gain a better understanding of myself, I realized that's not what feminism is anyway. That is not what feminism is. And as a professor, I used to teach all the time, you know, we have a false sense of what feminism is. We need to understand what feminism is. It doesn't need to strip women of our femininity and turn us into men. That's not what feminism is. And that really helped me take those perspectives and shift them. And then becoming a business owner, having to write paychecks and seeing the taxation on small businesses, and everything along the way has just pushed me further and further and further into my conservative values. And led me to where I am today. And for a long time, I think that I was probably kind of close to that libertarian type of notion too, right? But then I felt like the social issues, what I originally felt like were fairly a neutral position on social issues, actually became more of a liberal perspective in the Libertarian Party that just didn't fit for me. You know, again, I felt like I was bordering on that whole thing with the Democratic Party again. So here I am today. I ran for office this year as a registered Republican for a Republican seat, and it wasn't meant for me to be at that time, but it won't stop me from running again. And I'm firmly rooted and grounded in my notion that this is exactly where I belong, and that in order to affect change, I need to be part of this party. You know. All right. Well, let's talk about our next topic. So we've all touched a little bit on the idea of different parties, Libertarian Party, Constitution Party, being a Democrat, et cetera, being unaffiliated. What would you guys have to say to people who are still, firmly rooted in that idea that we need a multi-party system, we need to disband the two-party system, and people who are holding on to their votes for one of the minor parties, or continuing to, support one of the minor parties over candidates that are like in the Republican Party, even though their values are very much aligned with that, but they think that that's the way. What would you guys say to them, or what do you think about that?
When I first think about that, it's I want to look at them and say, don't give up, but because that idea of having more options. I mean, everybody wants more options. The more options we have, maybe the more we can figure things out. But then at the same time, we have to come together. I mean, my husband was just a perfect example of, he was running as a third-party candidate in a three-way race, and the Republican he was running against, they are basically the same man. Same values, same, beliefs, all of this. If it was just those two, honestly, you couldn't lose whoever you voted for. But we, really thought about it, and we're like, you know what? No, we have to come together. He decided to drop out, support him. Like, nope, he is exactly what we were wanting to put in there anyways. So let's stop this three-party game just because I want to be on the ballot. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about him. It was about making sure somebody is in there that is standing up for our rights, for our liberties, and that man is. So we dropped out, he dropped out, and we're supporting him 100%. So like I said at the beginning, don't give up that hope, and that hope of what they think about, at least the ones I know and where I was when I was a third party member was, yes, we want that, but don't give up that hope. But at the same time, we've got to come together to make sure we don't lose the ability to later have that third option or fourth option or fifth option or however many options. Because if we don't come together now, we could not ever have that option again.
Not have any option.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about you, Mary?
So, I'm an idealist at heart. I have this ideal, and I feel like there's got to be a way to make that happen. And so, that's why I, was registered with the American Constitution Party for so long, because I really felt like, I took the time to read over what they stood for and what they valued, and it really aligned with my ideals and my values. And so I followed my heart in that way, being affiliated with them. But then just found myself on the outside of being able to really make my voice heard, in the political process, because that is such a minority party, and there really is just not adequate representation. And so as long as we're kind of holding on to this idea that a third party will rise up and finally embody exactly what we want it to embody, and be effective and all of that, we are missing out on the opportunity, like Jen said, to come together in solidarity and to really make our voices heard. And that's something I've realized over the last few years, that we are stronger together, and we don't have to necessarily agree with every single thing that the Republican Party has to offer or stands for or whatever. But if we can just come together on some of those basic things, then I think that we really have an opportunity to strengthen that, and to make it more, attractive and appealing to others who feel the same way.
Yeah. I think what you said too, and this kind of pretty piggybacks for me, is I think a lot of people are holding out that there'll be this perfect party that represents every single ideal that they have, right? And that's just not realistic, I don't think, in a lot of ways, because unless you're going to just create your own party, right? And then, of course, somehow but not everybody can create their own party. What are we going to have, like 50,000 parties of one person? I mean, so, the thing of it is for me, I don't think there's anything perfect about any of the parties, but I do feel like in order to be the most effective at bringing about change, I need to be registered as a Republican right now, and that I need to support Republican candidates. Is every Republican candidate exactly the same? Perfect? No, they're not. I had a conversation with another candidate here in Adams County. He's a great man. His name is Tim, and he and I were talking one day when we were on the campaign trail, and he said, Republicans sometimes will pull you over and ask you a question, what do you think about this? Right. And it's this all or nothing kind of answer that they're expecting. I had it happen to me with a lady who wanted to talk to me about abortion, and she just adamantly wanted me to say, I'm going to get in and I'm going to fight for a law that says there's 0 abortions ever allowed for anybody, and anybody who gives one's, going to be banned from the universe. Right. And he and I were talking about, people questioning you on that, and these big single issues, single issue type of people. And that someone would say, well, I just don't know if we're a Republican candidate. This is a registered Republican talking to us. I just don't know if I can get behind you. And he said, to me, and he's like, if you don't like my answer on it, you sure as heck are not going to like the Democrats' answer on it. Like, where are you trying to go with this exactly, right? So I don't know if I can get behind you. Okay, well, don't get behind me. Then I'll get outvoted by a Democrat who thinks 100% opposite of you, whereas you and I are like 80% on the same page, right? And so a big piece of this for me is we need to stop that mentality of it's all or nothing, 100% or 0%. It's got to be this or it can't be that. And for me, that's a huge thing, because I think that we have to figure out a way to find commonalities rather than differences and be able to champion those commonalities. And that kind of, that leads into our last question or topic too tonight. And that is, our mission or justify. So I start this crazy group and I drag these wonderful women along with me here. And they say, I need a leadership team so we can figure out where we're going. And here they are, Lindy and Audrey as well. But, and we're trying to make our way. And our mission, right, is to be activists who promote personal accountability, civil liberties, economic stability and independence, family values and parental choice, the Constitution. Oh, there's a funny little thing half the country seems to have forgotten about, right? So here we are as this activist group. And so what is it for each of us that is the most important piece of that mission? And I'll just let you ladies talk first. Jen, tell us a little bit about what part of that mission is closest to home for you.
Sure. Well, the one that made me really start looking at the Republican Party and noticing them more was that parental choice piece. Having the government stand over you and tell you, you have to do this with your child, and knowing not only in my heart, but because of life experiences with myself, my family, my kids, that does not work for myself or my family or my kids. So you need to leave that choice to me. I know my kids best. You don't. So that one is the biggest one that hit home me. And then just I mean, everything really, but that the Constitution, like, it didn't just disappear, you know? I know there's some people who would like to think it did, but it's still there. I even tell my kids, I'm like, we live in the most free country. We live in the best country in the world. My husband talks to people all around the world on a daily basis. He works for an international company. He knows what's going on firsthand in other countries, and they tell him all the time, don't give up those rights. You've got to keep them. And I mean, that's really why I'm here. I just help people come together. I know there's a lot of people out there that they want to be active, or they think they do. They're not really quite sure. They don't know where to start. And I kind of like that. That's what I like about this group is, you can be as little or as much as you want to be active. You can just start by knowing the candidates, knowing the issues that are on the ballot each year. And then when you get comfortable there, jump up, write a letter to your representative, just yours. You don't have to write to all of them like I do for every bill that I want my voice heard. You don't have to go testify. I mean, that's intimidating to sit in front of a committee at the Capitol, but there's so many things you can do to be active. And like we said at the beginning, until we get all of us together and everybody doing what they feel comfortable with, we're not going to be able to move forward. So.
What about you, Marie? What part of this just calls to you?
So I don't know if it's any one thing that has called to me. I think it's just a amalgamation of issues. And truly, I think just the fact that our society is really starting to look like something that we don't even recognize. And a lot of, just really big shifts in paradigm thinking are occurring right now. And it's like we're moving into this area where what once was considered, very unreasonable, now it's flipped, and the opposite is the unreasonable option. And just knowing that Colorado, is a blue state, that hasn't always been the case. But just seeing how these issues could really start to hit close to home for us, and feeling like a concerned everyday citizen, not somebody that's ever, gone to the Capitol, or I've certainly written letters to my legislature, but usually just after, prompting from like an email that I got, or, a posting that I saw, or something like that, form letters and things like that. But just feeling like it really is time for the silent majority to start to speak up, to start to make our voice heard, to stop feeling like we have to be quiet about the values that we hold dear. And this idea, like you said, Cynthia, of personal accountability, personal responsibility, versus how is the government going to take care of me? And what do we need to legislate in our society to make sure that everyone has equal outcomes, and just these really scary ideas that are creeping in to our society. And I have kind of had discussions and debates with very liberal people on the left who argue that we will never have socialism in America, certainly not the way that you would see it in other countries. And even Hugo Chavez tricked his citizens into believing he was never going to bring socialism, into their country. And so the threat is very real. And I think that is really, for me, the impetus to join Justify.
The threat is absolutely real. One of the things you said about trying to make everybody have equal outcomes, that's not what this country has ever been about. That's not what the American dream is about. It's about the opportunity to go out there and do something. It's not about everybody being guaranteed equal outcomes. And sadly, people have been tricked into thinking that socialism will make sure everybody has equality and equal outcomes, but socialism is a disguise that leads to communism that is not there to create equality for everybody. It is to oppress and suppress the masses so that the very wealthy elite no longer have any risk or challenge anything to potentially disrupt their wealth and power. That's all it is. And they have tricked, I definitely know, one entire generation of people into thinking that socialism is the answer to the ills of the world and that this is what will make everybody equal. I have a tagline I've always used, and I've always said, I choose the possibility of great success with the risk of failure over the promise of mediocrity every day. And to me, that embodies the whole anti-socialism movement. For me, one of the biggest parts of Justify, and that I think is so important, is the exact topic we're talking about tonight, is the solidarity. And with this movement towards socialism and what I call this liberal looniness, not everybody who's a Democrat is a lunatic. That is not what I'm saying. And I know people will try to put words in my mouth, and I just ignore that, right? Because I know what I'm saying and what I'm saying. But there is this kind of lunacy that's going on with censorship and, where they've just bullied and harassed and forced people almost into their thinking. And it's disgusting. I was reading an article. My husband was actually reading this, and he was irate. He was just absolutely irate. As a Denver native who lived in Denver most of his life, and as a first generation Mexican, American, Hispanic, he was just up in arms over this. But Amanda Sandoval is a city council member in Denver who had the foresight to utter the words, simply said in a meeting, it's the same kind of violence we've been seeing. It's black on black, it's brown on brown violence. She was making an honest assessment of the type of violence that we've seen in the city of Denver for generations. My husband knows that firsthand, living in 5 Points, being raised in 5 Points as a Mexican American man. And he was enraged because what happened is she said that, and then another council member, basically who should be enlightened enough as a Hispanic woman to see that problem, led an attack on Amanda Sandoval to the point where they published her home address online, they went to her house, and they threatened her, literally threatened her that if she didn't retract her statement, she would suffer the consequences. This is what I'm referring to as liberal lunacy. Literally destroying people, threatening their children, threatening their life, going to their house if they don't agree. So what did she do? Then she publicly apologized, right? How sick is that we have a party that is physically attacking people, going to their home, if they choose to in any way not withhold the mantra and the indoctrination and the disturbed thoughts that are going on, if they in any way refute that disturbed way of thinking, that they are attacked. And that is why, that's what's so important to me, is we need to bring together everybody who has just said, enough of that, enough. Mm-hmm. I'm a Democrat, but I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be censored. I don't want to have my children molested and everybody tell me that's okay. I don't want my children taught these horrible things. I don't want this. I don't believe in this, whether you're Democrat and you're sick and tired of it, and you're ready to walk away from there, or you just want to be able to say what is right and what is true and not be attacked for it, or whether you're unaffiliated voter or whatever it is. And for me, I know that means changes to the Republican Party too, right? The Republican Party has to grow and mature too, in a way that we can embrace everyone who supports the same values. Because the point is, right now, to stop socialism, you have two choices: Democratic Party and socialism, or something else. And what is our only hope for this? Or something else, right? And I just can't help but say we have to come to that realization that the threat is real. You said it, Marie, the threat is real. As a child growing up in the 70s, I can remember hearing about communism and countries that were communist. And I flew into Berlin when the Berlin Wall was still standing. And it literally makes me choke up even talking about the notion that was ever allowed to exist, that people were trapped in their own country, that they were being held by a regime in their own country. My great-grandmother escaped communist country to come here in the dark of the night at 16 years old to never see her parents again. People have fled from all over the world to come here to a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. We were founded on the notion that the government is there to aid and represent the people and the people's will. And people have fought. They have been in underground trains. They have laid on boats for months. They have done everything that they can to get to this country, because that constitutional republic, for every day that this country has been in existence, has allowed us to become the freest and greatest, most economically stable nation in the world. And we are throwing that away. We are throwing it away. And one of the biggest culprits is the censorship, the media, and the craziness that people are being told over and over again. So my biggest thing is we have to bring together everybody who wants to stop socialism, wherever you sit, whatever your party, and fight. Stop it. And I just get so riled up over it, it just makes me crazy. What?
I think it should. I think it should make us all riled up.
Yep.
Yeah. We've got to get angry. We have to. We have to get angry. And that's how, when I was sitting around thinking about this group and what are we going to call it and where are we going to go, I was watching the news and Polis, I'm not even going to say governor at this point because he has decided that he's some sort of emperor at this point now, right? He says, just wear the damn mask. And I said, just defy. And I'm ready. And I'm so glad you guys are along here with me and Audrey and Lindy and everyone else who wants to make this happen. And we need to find our way for our group to help promote and find the voice for Coloradoans who want to stop this, this runaway train. And whoever you are, whatever you are, we need to come together. And those registered Republicans, those who are leading the Republican Party, I urge you, I beg you, please continue to mature. Please continue to bring people into the party. Please continue to, be open to bringing people together who want the same values and who can support our mission. And I just want to call everybody to that action. So, great announcement. On October 10th, Justify is going to have our first event. We are still in the planning process, but we will have it hashed out by the end of this week. But we are going to have a day to defy. As a hopeful statewide organization, we are going to be working tirelessly over the next month to bring people together from all four corners of this state on that day. And we may not all be together physically on that day, but we are going to create a movement on that day. And we're going to work to make sure that we are all coming together in local areas, broadcasting, and sending out a message that we are going to defy socialism, every move toward it, and the party that is allowing it to trample on our nation. So please watch for upcoming events on our Facebook page, our LinkedIn page, and of course on our website, justify.org, where you can learn more about what we're doing that day. And those of us who are part of this leadership team are going to be out just talking to everybody who can about this and moving forward. And we will make an announcement about the event and what we're hoping to do. So what else, you guys? Jen, Marie, any last comments or words for the group? This might be watching us.
No, just let's do this. We can do this. We can. We have to believe it, and we can. We will fight it.
Yeah, and I just have to say, if ever there was a time to start speaking up and standing up for what you believe in, it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Many, many times we have said, oh, this is the most important election of our time. This is the most important election of our time. I believe we have been wrong every time we have said that in the past. But I do not think we are wrong this time. Let your voice be heard. Join us, justify.org. That's JUSTDEFY.org. All right. Thank you, everybody who's tuned in. Oh, Jen, Marie, thank you. And to Lindy and Andre, who couldn't be here tonight. Thank you, ladies, too, for your mission. Both of them are so active as well. And we are looking for people to join us. So please reach out. There's just a ton of different ways to get in touch with us through our website, through our groups. And we want to know who you are and whatever role you want to play, whatever it is you think you want to do, even if it's just to say, hey, I'm behind you, whatever. Let us know you're out there. All right. Thanks, everybody.